My name is Bruce Lipton. I'm a research scientist that was cloning stem cells back 50 years ago. And that research, when I was teaching in the medical school, changed my entire life and what I understand about the nature of biology and health. My research revealed a very important fact. While I was teaching medical students that genes control life in the classroom, the research on stem cells revealed a completely different story. The research revealed that it was the environment that was controlling genes. Basically, the research was simply this. I would take one stem cell, and a stem cell is an embryonic cell. And all of us have these stem cells in our body. And you might ask, why should I have embryonic cells in my body? And the answer is very simple. That a human body is made out of 50 trillion cells. The cells are the living entity. A human, by definition, is a community of 50 trillion cells. Well, the relevance is that every day we lose about 100 to 200 billion cells or more. Every day they just die. And the problem is if you do not replace these cells, obviously it will create a health problem after a short period of time of losing that many cells. So in our bodies, we have stem cells. Interesting point, a stem cell is officially an embryonic cell. But we changed the name because once you're born, you're not an embryo. So the new name stem cell represents an embryonic cell in your own body. Well, I take one stem cell and put it in a petri dish all by itself, and it divides every 10 or 12 hours. So first there's one cell, and then 10 hours later is 2, and then 10 hours later is 4, and it keeps doubling. So after 1 week, I have 30,000 cells in the petri dish. And the significance is this. All of the cells are genetically identical because they came from the same parent cell. So I have 30,000 genetically identical cells. I split those cells into 3 different petri dishes. And we grow cells in a solution called culture medium. And you might ask, well, what is culture medium? It is the laboratory equivalent of blood. So if I grow human cells, I look at the composition of human blood, and in the laboratory, I create a synthetic version of human blood, and we call it culture medium. Well, here's the interesting aspect, that I now have 3 dishes with genetically identical cells, but I create 3 different versions of culture medium, meaning I create and synthesize 3 different culture mediums with different composition. So I then feed one dish with culture medium A, the second dish with culture medium B, and the third dish with culture medium C. What happens is this. In dish A, the cells form muscle. In dish B, the cells form bone. And in dish C, the cells form fat cells. The results are profound, and the reason is this. We were saying that genes control the fate of the cells, but then recognize this fact. All of the cells in all of the dishes had exactly the same genetics. So how can one culture have muscle and another culture have bone? It was based on the culture medium, and that is the environment of the cells. So as you change the chemistry of the culture medium, you select different genes. Well, this is completely different than the story that genes made a decision. The genes were just responding to the environment. Now you might say, well, that's an interesting study of cells in a plastic petri dish. But here's what's more important. As I mentioned, a human body is a community of 50 trillion cells. So in truth, a human body is a skin-covered petri dish with 50 trillion cells inside. I go, yes, but what should the cells do? I go, we used to say the genes would make a decision as to what the cells will do in health or disease. But it turns out, no, this is incorrect. It's the composition of the culture medium, which in your body is called blood. So as you change the chemistry of the blood, you change the genetics of the cells. So the genetic control is not in the cell, it's in the blood that is feeding the cells. And then I say, well, wait a minute. Who is the chemist in your body that makes the culture medium? And the answer is the brain. The brain is what releases chemistry into the blood to control the fate of the cells. Now, the next question is very important. What chemistry should the brain put into the blood? And this is the amazing answer. The chemistry the brain puts into the blood is based on the picture in your mind. If you have a picture of health and love, you put beautiful chemistry in your blood. So if I'm sitting here and my eyes are closed and I open them and see someone I love, my brain puts special chemistry in the blood. Dopamine is released into the blood, which gives the body pleasure. Oxytocin is released when you're in love from the brain. Oxytocin bonds you to what or who you love. Vasopressin is released by the brain when you're in love, and this makes you more attractive to your partner. And growth hormone is released by a brain that is experiencing love. Growth hormone, as the name said, enhances your growth and your vitality. The point is simple. The chemistry released by the brain when there's a picture of love is chemistry that enhances the health of the system. And that's why when people fall in love, others will say, look, see how they glow, see how healthy they look. That health is an expression of the chemistry in the blood that comes from the picture of love in the mind. Now, in contrast, if I open my eyes and I see something that scares me, well, I do not release the chemistry of love. Instead, I release stress hormones. I release hormones that control my immune system and shut it down. These are hormones of protection. So fear causes different hormones to go into the blood, but then the blood is carried to the cells, and those information hormones in the blood control the genetics of the cell. The point is very profound. You are not a victim of genes. Genes control your life. That's the story that you've been programmed with. No, you are actually being controlled by the thoughts in your mind, the picture in your mind. As the Buddha said 2,500 years ago, what we think, we become. Now, this might sound kind of weird that your thoughts are controlling your genetics, but almost everyone is familiar with something called the placebo effect. And what is the placebo effect? Well, let's say you have an illness and a doctor says we have a special new medicine that will heal you. And he gives you this special new pill, and you take this medicine and then you get better. But then you find out the pill was just a sugar pill. So the healing didn't come from the pill. The healing came from the belief about the pill, that the belief was that this is the new pill that's going to heal you. So the healing was really a thought. It came from your positive thinking. Now, well, everyone says, yes, I know the placebo effect. And again, it's important because the placebo effect is the best example of how your mind is controlling your biology. But what I need to emphasize is this. The placebo effect is based on positive thinking. In contrast, what about negative thinking? No one talks about that. But here's the most important fact. Negative thinking is equally powerful in controlling your biology. But while positive thinking can take you toward health, negative thinking can create every disease that humans experience. Negative thinking can actually kill you. People have heard, fear kills. Well, fear puts chemistry into the blood that will actually shut down your growth and put you into protection. And the problem is that when we shut down the growth of the body, that's when we start to get sick and we start to die. Now, fear originally was only used to run away from a saber-toothed tiger. So that we only use fear for a very short time in our life when we were ancient cave people. We only use it just to run away from the tiger. Once you got away from the tiger, then you return back to growth. So fear was only used 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most. And yet today, in the world in which we live, with the news on the television and the news in the newspaper and on the internet, everything is fear-based. The relevance is this. We are now living in fear 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. In other words, originally the fear response to shut down your growth was only for a few minutes, and then we return back to health. But today's world, this is not true. Today's world, we are in fear and we are in protection most of the time. And the problem is this: nature did not design us to be in fear for a long time, because that interferes with our vitality. So the problem is, in today's world, because we're so afraid of losing our job, losing our money, losing our health, that these fears are actually shutting down growth. So while we talk about the placebo effect, positive thinking creating healing, in science we refer to it as the nocebo effect. The nocebo effect is negative thinking. And it turns out, and this is a fact, less than 1% of disease is due to genetics. Over 90% of disease is due to stress. And stress is a result of living in fear, living in a world where you feel unsafe. And as a result, we spend most of our time with chemistry coming from the brain that is shutting down the body as we prepare to run, or in high school we used to refer to adrenal system as fight or flight. When we're always ready to run, fight or flight, we stop the growing. We stop the immune system. Stress hormones actually shut off the immune system. And the reason is simple: because the immune system uses a lot of energy. Just remember, when you were sick, if you were very sick, you had so little energy you couldn't even get out of bed. So I say, well, why is it relevant to shut off the immune system when you're in stress? And the answer is, remember, when we're in stress, we're ready to run, fight or flight, get away from that saber-toothed tiger. Well, it takes a lot of energy to protect yourself. So when stress hormones are released into the body, they conserve energy for fight or flight by shutting down any system that is using energy that is not necessary for us to run away. The immune system is protection from the inside. The adrenal system, where the stress hormones come from, is protection from the outside. So if we fear what's going on in the world around us, the stress hormones shut off the immune system to conserve energy. And in so doing, that gives us enough energy to run away from that saber-toothed tiger. The effect of stress hormones is so great on the immune system that medical doctors give patients who are going to receive a transplant, such as a heart or a kidney or a lung, before the doctors transplant the foreign organ, they give the patient stress hormones. This shuts down the immune system so that when they transplant the foreign organ into that person's body, the recipient's immune system is not going to try and kill the foreign cells. So just think of this fact, that doctors actually use stress hormones to shut down the immune system. I say, but for the rest of us not getting an organ, realize this: watching the news and being afraid of what's happening in the world is shutting down your immune system. And this is why stress is responsible for most of the disease on this planet. So what we have to recognize now is, number one, we are not controlled by genes. We are controlled by the growth hormone, the blood. And the blood chemistry is controlled by the brain, but the chemistry released by the brain is related to the picture in our mind. And this is why it's so important for us to stop focusing on negative things about the world. Because every time we think of something negative, we're releasing those hormones that shut down the growth in the immune system and are taking us toward disease. Well, now we have to understand something about the mind. Now remember, the mind is creating the picture which controls our biology. And I say, when we say the mind, there's a picture of a single mind. And I go, no, this is an error. There are two minds. There's the conscious mind, which is connected to your spirituality, to your identity, to your uniqueness. That's the conscious mind. It's creative. It's the mind with wishes and desires. In contrast, there's a second mind called the subconscious mind. The name subconscious means below conscious. This mind is the habit mind that operates when we're not paying attention. I go, it's a very important mind. We need to have habits in order to live. Just to give you an example, when did you learn how to walk? Before you were age 2. I say, did you ever have to learn how to walk again? I go, no. I said, so now I'm over 70 years old. Guess what? I don't have to learn how to walk. My subconscious has a memory from before I was 2, so I don't even have to say I need to walk. I just have to have the idea that I want to go somewhere, and the mind will push the habit button and I will walk without even thinking about it. If you drive a car, in the beginning you didn't know how to drive a car, but you practiced, and then it became a habit. So think about it this way. What was it like the first day you got into a car and you put your hands on the steering wheel? Your mind was so busy looking out the windows, looking in the mirror, watching the gauges on the dashboard, watching what was going on the street, listening to the engine, paying attention to the pedals, the gas and the brake. And I go, and today, after you've been driving for a while, you don't even think about those things. You can put the key in the car, and all you can think about now is getting to your store or going to wherever you want to go, and you're not even paying attention to the driving. And you have to thank the subconscious mind, because once you practice, driving becomes a habit. A habit means you don't have to think about it. So you can drive the car and talk to the passenger. You can drive the car and think about where you want to go and not even pay attention to the road. So the subconscious mind is very, very helpful, because once we have a habit, then that means we can do that thing, whether it's driving the car or walking or talking or even the job that you do, without even paying attention. And here's the fact. Science now recognizes that only 5% of the day are we operating from the conscious mind, the creative mind, the mind that has your wishes and your desires. So if I ask you, I say, tell me what you want from your life, and you say, oh, I want to have a wonderful relationship. Oh, I want to be healthy. Oh, I want to have a great job. These answers come from the conscious mind. And if you want to get those destinations, health, happiness, love, then you want to operate from the conscious mind, because that's the one that has the creative idea. But as science reveals, only 5% of the day are we operating from the conscious mind. 95% of the day we are coming from the programs, the habits that we have in the subconscious mind. Now, why is this an important problem? And the answer is this, that we now know that the basic behavior in the subconscious mind is programmed into our mind before age 7. As children, from the time we are born to age 7, the mind is recording behavior by watching other people. So the behaviors that are in the subconscious mind didn't come from your wishes and desires. They came from watching your mother, watching your father, watching your siblings, watching your community. So I say, why is this relevant? Because the behaviors in the subconscious mind didn't come from your wishes and desires. They came from observing other people. So the behaviors in the subconscious mind do not reflect what you want. They reflect what you learned from other people. The problem? Psychologists tell us that 70% or more of the programs in the subconscious mind are negative, disempowering, self-sabotaging, and limiting. 70% of the behaviors sabotage your life from the subconscious. And you go, well, what does that mean? I go, 5% of your life from the conscious creativity, wishes and desires, 5% is how much you're moving toward what you want. 95% of your life is coming from those terrible programs in the subconscious. And you go, but I would see if I was exercising bad programs. I go, no. And here's why. Why only 5% from the conscious mind? And the answer is simple. When you are thinking, the conscious mind stops paying attention to what's going on the outside, because thinking is an internal job. If I say to you, what are you doing next week on Tuesday? To get the answer, it's not out here. The answer is inside. So the moment I think about what am I doing on Tuesday, I'm not paying attention. I go, well, what if I'm walking down the street? Does that mean if I'm thinking I stop because I don't want to walk into a tree or walk off the road? No. Here's the point. When the conscious mind is thinking, all the behavior is now controlled by autopilot. Autopilot is subconscious. And I go, why is it relevant? Because when the subconscious is playing its programs, can you see it? And I go, no, because your conscious mind is not paying attention. That's why the subconscious is running. So I give a story in my lectures for 20 years, the same story, because everyone understands it. And it goes like this. I'm sure sometime in your life you had a friend and you were very close to your friend. You knew your friend's behavior very, very well. And then you also knew your friend's parent. And one day you see your friend has the same behavior as their parent. So you want to tell your friend, you go, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. And then you back away from Bill. Because Bill goes, how can you compare me to my dad? I'm nothing like my dad. And everyone laughs because they're very familiar. I say, this is the most profound story for this reason. Everyone else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. The only one who doesn't see it is Bill. And the reason why? Because when Bill is thinking, Bill is playing the program that he downloaded from his father. And therefore, when that behavior is going on, Bill doesn't see it because his conscious mind is thinking. And I say, well, why is this important? And this is the most important thing I can tell you. Because the life that we lead is not coming from what we want. The life that we experience is coming from the subconscious. And I go, yeah, but we don't see that behavior. So if we are sabotaging ourselves, we're the ones that don't see that we're doing it. All we see is the result. I didn't find love today. I didn't get the best job today. I didn't get healthy today. That's all you see. And since you didn't see that the subconscious was causing that, I say, well, then how come you didn't find success? And you say, the universe, nature didn't give me success. I am a victim. I'm a victim of nature. I go, that's the problem. It's our own behavior that is sabotaging us, but we don't see it. And that's why we feel like we're victims. And I say, the story that I'm telling you is like the movie The Matrix. In The Matrix, its story is everyone is programmed. And I say, but this is true, because every child that is born is programmed in the first 7 years. That's when we download the behavior by observing other people. The Jesuits have even said for 400 years, give me a child until it's 7 and I will give you the man. What they were telling people was, whatever program I put in the first 7 years is the program that you will play and create your life with. And this is the most important understanding. So like the movie The Matrix, yes, we've all been programmed. And 70% of that program is self-sabotaging. In the movie The Matrix, there's a part where you can take a red pill. And when you take the red pill, you get out of the program. Well, here's an interesting truth. Most of us have already taken that red pill at one time. I say, when was that? I said, when we fell in love. Think about it. Your life could be very bad every day, same life, you don't like it, and then one day you fall in love. And guess what? 24 hours later, you're living heaven on earth. Life is so beautiful, you're so in love, oh, the world is glowing, you're so happy. There's no problem. It's called the honeymoon effect. I go, what is it? Why did life was so bad for my life? And then 24 hours after meeting this love, all of a sudden I'm on heaven on earth. I go, because science has recognized when you fall in love, it's like taking the red pill. You stop playing the program and you start creating life with what? Conscious mind, which is wishes and desires. So the moment you fall in love, you stop playing the sabotaging programs and you start creating with wishes and desires. And I say, so what was the result? And it was like heaven on earth. What's the point and the conclusion that's so important? If we stop playing the negative programs and start creating from our conscious mind, instead of 5%, we start creating conscious life 90%. Guess what? Our life changes instantly into a healthy, happy, heaven on earth experience. Why this message is so important is this. As long as we keep operating from the subconscious mind, we become victims of the program. But when we stop using the subconscious behavior and stay mindful, keep your mind present, your conscious mind present, you become the creator. And when you are that creator, what did you create? Heaven on earth. And so the simple reality is this. That experience of falling in love is the same as taking a red pill. It took you out of the program and gave you power over your creation. And the idea is simply this. If you understand how to use that power, you could have heaven on earth every day of your life as long as you live, because if you stay in your creative conscious mind, that is the mind that brings health, happiness, and love. Once we go back and start thinking again, we go back to the program. And that's how come the honeymoon doesn't last for most people, because it only lasts as long as you keep the conscious mind present. But after a short period of time of being in love, the real world comes back, and you have to think about your job, think about the things you have to do. And the moment you start thinking is when the conscious mind lets go and the subconscious programs take over, and guess what? Those are the negative programs. And that's why the honeymoon disappears. So the message that's most important is simply this. You are very powerful in creating your life. The only thing you didn't understand was this, is that the first 7 years of programming, and that's where the subconscious gets its behavior, is what controls our genetics, our behavior, and our life experiences. And if you get out of those subconscious programs just by staying conscious, all of a sudden you create heaven on earth. So the message of the new biology is, how do we keep heaven on earth as a way of life? And the answer is two things. Number one, stay conscious, but that's very difficult because we have to do so much thinking. Number two is, we can change the programs in the subconscious mind. We can write new programs and not keep the programs that we got when we were children. And the reason why this is important, when you learn how to write the programs in your subconscious mind, think of it this way. What if you put in the programs that you love, the programs that give you happiness and joy, if you program those into the subconscious mind? I said, why would that be important? Then think about it this way. 95% of the day you could think about whatever you want. And your autopilot subconscious mind with those new loving programs will operate 95% of the day. And what will they do? Create heaven on earth for you every day, every hour, for as long as you live. Your freedom is not to change your genetics with chemistry and drugs and science like that. Your freedom is to change your mind. Your mind is the creator, and you are very powerful people. Now, to take power over your life is really how you can change the program in your subconscious. And this is important because we used to think if you just have a new belief in your conscious mind, it will automatically change the subconscious. This is not true. The conscious mind and subconscious mind don't learn in the same way. To change the subconscious, there are three main ways to do that. One is hypnosis, and you can do that every night by putting earphones on your head when you go to bed and play a program of a new belief that you would like to be real. Every night as you go to bed, just play that program. And after a number of nights, the subconscious will have a new program. That's hypnosis. Number 2 is, how do we learn something after age 7? Repetition, repeating it over and over again. So if you want to change your life, you have to repeat what you want. So let's say you're not happy, but I say every day, I say to myself, I am happy, I am happy, I am happy. I repeat this. I say, why is it relevant? Because after repetition, we create a new habit in the subconscious mind that says, I am happy. And the important part is, since the subconscious mind is controlling your life 95% of the time, if you have a new program, I am happy, then when you're thinking and the subconscious is playing, it will automatically make you happy. So in the beginning you say, I am happy, your world doesn't look happy. I say, no, just keep saying, I am happy, I am happy. It will repeat. There's a phrase that people use today, I think it's a fun phrase, it says, fake it till you make it. In other words, pretend you're happy and repeat it, and then at some point you will automatically be happy. That's a habit. And the third way is very important and very new. It's called energy psychology. It engages what is called super learning. And that super learning means you can download a new belief in 5 or 10 minutes. So with energy psychology, you can create a new program, a program that gives you health or happiness or whatever you desire. Using these new psychology modalities, you can write a new program in 5 or 10 minutes. So we are given a gift now to rapidly change our behavior. Thank you all for being with me. I hope this introduction gives you a little insight into the power that you have to create heaven on earth. It's not an accident. You are the creator. And when you understand how the mechanism works, heaven on earth could be an everyday event for all of us. Thank you.